Hey everyone, it's Patch 3.22 Ancestor, and I want to bring one final update for Impending Doom that isn't the endgame guide on some new technology that has been added through this season that we slowly discovered as we ended up playing more and more of the season. Now, one thing I want to mention is the endgame guide is coming out relatively soon. So if you do want to know what to do with your mid-game guide and how to upgrade even further, I will have more info on that for you. But for now, I want to bring some really important technology that I think people really appreciate for me to get it out early. So there's going to be two things that we want to talk about today. One is going to be the new journey tattoos, which were added into the game as a mid-league update. None of us were aware these were going to be a thing. And suddenly GG 2 weeks into the season just said, hey, these are going to be a thing now. And the other thing I want to mention is a new amulet that was added this season that people really just didn't appreciate how broken it was until people have started playing with it. And now we've all realized that Defiance of Destiny is going to be hilariously broken. So why don't we first start with the journey tattoos? So what the journey tattoos are is tattoos that allow you to re-roll a keystone into another keystone. Now, you can only do this once. You're only allowed to have one keystone tattoo. That's more than enough. There's one very specific keystone that we want in this build. We just never had access to because it's so far away. And that is mind over matter. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be stealing some tech from another build I used to play, EK. What EK does is it also runs Eldritch Battery to make the energy shield protect the mana, which means it's always recharging, which means you always have a large amount of effective mana regeneration to never have any mana problems with your skill. Now, what EK ends up doing is it ends up also picking up Mind Over Matter because it has a pretty big ES pool and it synergizes really well with Mind Over Matter to overall give the build more health. It also picks up some energy on kill, which makes it so while clearing, even if you do get hit really hard and all of your energy shield goes away because of Mind Over Matter, with the ES on kill, you'll be able to basically, as soon as you kill a pack, have your ES be filled up instantly. And it's going to couple that with Ghost Dance, making it really not a problem at any point in the game. The other thing to mention is this build already has some built-in ES Leech through Vixens. So when we add in the ES Leech from Vixens, when we add in Ghost Dance and we add in Soul Thief, it removes all the negatives. So what we want to be doing, which I wouldn't really recommend to do unless you have a lot of money lying around, is going to be a little bit RNG, is we would want to pick up Ghost Reaver, we'd want to pick up Ghost Dance and Soul Thief. And the only reason to pick up Ghost Reaver is because we're going to be using these tattoos to re-roll Ghost Reaver until we get Mind Over Matter. Until then, you don't have a reason to pick this up, so don't pick up Ghost Reaver or Ghost Dance or Soul Thief until you actually manage to roll Ghost Reaver over to Mind Over Matter. But once it is rolled, you would pick all this up and then you effectively get 40% more EHP because your ES pool isn't super big, but it will always be active. So it always means you're basically just moving around up to 600 to 700, depending on how well rolled your Vixens are, damage off of each hit through Mind Over Matter. And because we have Ghost Dance and because it'll basically always be active, like even on a boss, if you get hit a bunch of times really hard, you'll probably end up dodging. So you'll have a few seconds where you have a Ghost Shroud come back. So you basically will never run into an issue of not really having energy shield unless you're already having energy shield problems before, which those are really on you to fix rather than this causing them. And with all this put together, you'll just get decently tankier. And as I mentioned, they are quite expensive. So do this at your own discretion. This isn't something you immediately need to go rush out and do, but it is something to do if you want a little bit more of a mid to late game min-max for your build to just get a little bit more tankiness out of it. But the other thing I wanted to mention today was the new amulet, Defiance of Destiny. So this gives us a role that just has never existed in the game before, and it's actually just straight up broken. The role that we care about here is the gain of 42% of missing unreserved life before being hit by an enemy. So let's pretend you were at 0 health, but you weren't dead, and an enemy was going to attack you. Well, before the damage even registers, Defiance of Destiny would immediately fill up 42% of your life since you're at 0 before the damage goes through. So if that hit was going to kill you, but it was going to be less than 42% of your life, you suddenly healed from it. I hope you get where my analogy is going. This effectively removes a decent chunk off of every hit. Now, obviously, this is going to do anything if you're at full health. This is not one-shot protection. But if you're taking a bunch of hits, or if something hits you for around a quarter of your life and then a really big hit comes through afterwards, this is just going to chop off a decent chunk of every hit against you. And when we combine that with Blood Notch, because this has perfect synergy of Blood Notch, since the bigger a hit it's going to be, the lower it's going to bring you down, and the lower it's going to bring you, the better Defiance of Destiny will immediately be on the next hit. When we combine that with the insane recovery from Blood Notch as well, this effectively, I would say, around doubles your EHP. We can't really see this in Path of Building because these roles aren't really accounted for. It's a little bit hard to account for them, especially Blood Notch. Like, how do you realistically perfectly account Blood Notch's EHP? But when combine them together, I would say these basically make you twice as tanky. And the really OP thing about Defiance of Destiny is the role that we care about has a life tag. So that means you can use Fertile Catalyst on it to turn it from 35% at a max roll all the way up to 42%. What I'm trying to say here is if you want to become even tankier, if doing the whole Ghost Dance, Mind Over Matter, Soul Thief tech isn't enough, if you don't feel tanky enough yet, add in a Defiance of Destiny as well, and you basically should never die. I can almost guarantee you, as long as you have both of these things in there, you probably won't die to anything other than the super big hits, maybe Uber abilities or something like Shaper Slam or any ability that's kind of meant to one-shot you in the first place. Obviously, you won't live those, but for the mid-game Path of Building, this should basically make it so you never die in a map ever again. The other thing you do to add on top of this, which I've mentioned quite a bit to people on my stream, but I've never really mentioned on YouTube, is you can choose to add in a Progenesis as well. And what Progenesis does is it makes it so 25% of all damage to your life is instead taken over 4 seconds, which means you effectively have 25% more life if you are full life and if something would have hit you for exactly your whole health bar. This is pretty easy to have 100% uptime on. You are going to need to add in a bunch of Flask Effect Duration rolls, and you're going to need to get a pretty decently well-rolled Progenesis between the duration and the flash charges used. But if you add this in, instead of Taste of Hate, drop your Silver Flask and instead run a Sapphire Flask, and then just get yourself a Onslaught Hit Tattoo on Alacrity to make up the Onslaught bag, you cannot die. I can promise you, between Progenesis, Defiance of Destiny, and Blood Notch, you cannot die with this build. That is the holy trinity of basically never, ever, ever dying. And if you just want to make a super immortal build, I present to you True Immortality. And if you'd like to see what all this looks like in practice, here I am on a Magic Find character that I'm playing this season. Now, what I want to mention about this is I have no armor, no evasion. I don't have any max res. All I have for my defensive layers is just Defiance of Destiny, a Progenesis, and a Blood Notch. This is 100% full greed Magic Find, and I've been doing nothing but 8-mod apothecary farming with it. And as you can currently see, I'm level 97. I'm halfway to level 98. And my only defensive layers have been my Life Flask and those 3 other things combined. So if I can level with this character in 8-mod maps, with Beyonds, with me clicking every single altar that just simply gives me more loots and more rewards without really caring about what the downsides are, you can kind of see how powerful this would be in any other setup that's not super squishy Magic Find. If this is enough to get me to 98 very slowly and potentially even 99 without using omens at all, then this should basically make you immortal in any other setup. That's all I really have to say in this video. If you are gonna do the gamba of rolling for keystones, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you get mom really quickly. As I mentioned, I could roll literally any keystone on the tree, so it's like a 1 in 70 or something like that to get mom. So, you know, gamble at your own risk. But if you choose to add Defiance of Destiny in instead, I know you're going to lose a little bit of DPS. And if that's not really a problem, if you just want to basically be immortal, I hope you enjoy your time in basically never dying again. I hope you have an easy time to level 100. You had a pretty easy time beforehand, but now it's just going to be even easier. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them as soon as I can. Or you can come by my Twitch. I stream every single day. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have there. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope to see you guys in the next one.